This is the France 24 debate. We're wondering, when you look at all the red ink that now faces the French government, if it's so long for the socialist creed of the incoming government, the one, again, as we mentioned at the top, that for the first time ever has control of both houses of parliament and representing the upper chamber. He's with us, Richard Jung. Senator, how are you, sir?
Hello.
From the Socialist Party. From the UMP party, Jonas Haddad, welcome back, sir. And Mark Dean of the Bloomberg News Agency. Mark Dean, who was there at the National Assembly this Tuesday for that first policy speech by the new French Prime Minister, Jean-Marc Ayrault. Just before the break, we were beginning to grapple with the concept of the manner and style for this government as it tackles the tough part, which are the reforms to come. And one of the interesting points, Mark Dean, was today in his general policy speech, the Prime Minister revised downwards those expectations for growth next year. Was that so he could announce good news in 2013, or was that because it really is looking bad?
No, it's because it's really looking bad. And the numbers that, the government is adjusting to now are the numbers which, the general population of economists and probably the European Commission and so on are expecting. The French economy has been slowing after doing okay in the first sort of half of 2011. It's been just sort of downhill since then, and there was no growth in the first quarter. INSEE, the National Statistics Institute, estimates there was probably no growth in the second quarter. It is really part of the trick to get growth coming again, and this is just bringing the government numbers into line with what people expect.
There's an enigma in all this, and I always want to know is how come in France, despite these very sluggish numbers, you still have relatively robust consumer spending. The French are still buying stuff.
Well, I mean, it's everything is relative. France is not Italy and Spain, and consumer spending has held up, but not relative to what has been the case in the past 10 years. Over the past decade, French consumer spending has essentially driven growth, and that will not be the case going forward. It's no longer the case right now. We're getting, if you look in the actual GDP numbers, the consumer spending contribution is positive, but just small. Just
positive. And there's another big problem, and that's coming up more and more, it seems, the jobless rate. While over in the United States, it's trickling downwards. The forecast from France's state auditor's court is for unemployment to head north of the 10% mark in the coming quarters. With the jobless rate rising, what's going to be the plan, Richard Jung, if you've got to stop it at this point?
I must say I agree with what was said. French growth was mostly demand-driven, whilst, for instance, German growth was a lot investment-driven. But these things tend to reduce, and we are now coming to something close to 0%, which is, of course, a very big problem, because if you have no growth, then you have no additional revenue, no job creation. And we see that German economy is also slowing down, and we have strong relations with Germany, and that US economy is not doing so well. They did a lot of job creation in the first 6 months of the year, but it has been going down and down, and so there is, we have a lot of worry here, and this is where we think that there is room for a medium-size perk for growth, for economic growth, through investment and a little through demand.
All right,
but of course, investment takes time.
Right. Let me ask you that concretely, Richard Jung. If you want to move away from consumer-driven growth to investment-driven growth, how do you do it?
It takes time. Well, you put money, you invest in new technologies, in green technology, and so on and so on. But it is something that takes some time. Between the moment you do it and the moment it has effect, you may have
Jonas Haddad, is there anything that can be done in the immediate?
There was a solution that was proposed by Nicolas Sarkozy during the campaign. It was the proposal to make, a rate of VAT to fight against delocalization. That was our word to say outsourcing, because this is very important. The senator was just saying just before that we have to reduce the spread between us and the Germany that is investment driven, and the spread is also caused by this difference in VAT, and we are not able, to produce so much that the Germany and the Germans are doing right now, because we have this problem of this tax. And this was the solution. And the first proposal of the Socialist Party when they came to the government was to cut down this proposal. So the solution was here. You were saying just before, we need time. We don't need time. We need measures, concrete measures. We don't need time. We don't have enough time to fight to have our growth. This is, as we can see right now, this is being more urgent and urgent.
We oppose this so-called social VAT, because that was the idea was to say, let's take some part off social contributions, which are paid by the employer, and we will put them on VAT so that it reduces. But it meant also that everybody would pay for this. And this we thought was unfair, because it means every person doing any consumption should pay for this.
Martine, to kickstart industry in France, I guess you have two stereotypes that collide head-on here. On the one hand, it's the France of the 35-hour work week, laden with bureaucratic red tape. On the other, it's a France that is quite productive. That's the world's fourth largest economy, and where workers are oftentimes more productive than in neighboring countries. So, which is the truth in all of this?
Well, I wanted to sort of pass on that one and say it's complicated, but I think everyone agrees, whether socialists or on the right, on the UMP in this country, that the question of French industry needs to be addressed, and that French competitiveness needs to be improved. There's debate about who. The debate is back to that old debate of who's going to pay for it. I mean, personally, I have to say that the social sales tax or social VAT would have. Was a step in the right direction. But it will be interesting to see, once we get down to the details, how much of that law, which was passed by the UMP lawmakers in the first quarter, how much of that will be dismantled? Because there were a lot of other things in there, aside from just the tax position. There was things about, the 35-hour work week and work flexibility and so on and so forth. And I wouldn't be surprised to see some of those things quietly left standing.
So there's also the question of the labor market being made more, people on the right, I guess, would say more flexible. People on the left would perhaps qualify it otherwise, saying that more vulnerable is perhaps how some people would say it. In his speech, the Prime Minister spoke of bringing unions into the boardroom of corporations, as it's done in Germany. The real battle, argues the opposition, is about productivity, making businesses more efficient.
The truth is the socialists have a big problem with supply-side politics, with competitiveness, which they never talk about, even though it's a major issue. And my friends and I from the UMP will propose a number of bills. France, through socialist eyes, is a closed circuit, when, on the contrary, we have to be very open towards Europe and the world.
Is this socialist government, Richard Jung, going to do things, for instance, to make it easier for small businesses to hire people?
Yes, I think this is one of our plans. We are quite conscious that French competitiveness has gone down during the last years. It's a general problem. It's a problem of industry, because the part of industry in the economy has gone down. And it is also...
How much of it, though, is down to outdated labor laws?
I can't answer this. How can you measure this? No, really, I have no position on this. I think the right answer is that French social relations have always been kind of middle-aged. We have no real social dialogue, and I think what is proposed to try and work out some social agreement between the unions and the employers, I think that goes in the right direction. Germany is always cited, but they do this, and they even run the companies together. Why can't we do this?
Jonas Haddad, what do you think of the German model in that light?
I can join you on this point because, you know, we can see that in Germany, for example, the unions are doing a great job, but mainly because they are not taking political positions. And let's remember what happened during the campaign. The CGT, one of the biggest unions, just called to vote for François Hollande. So when you're calling your members to vote for someone, you're giving a political issue to what you are doing. And when you are talking and you're negotiating with the companies and the bosses of the companies, they can see you as political opposition rather than only, you know, work opposition or job-driven opposition. So the main problem is that our negotiation and our speeches between the companies and between the unions must be out of politics. And sometimes politics is good when we are talking about, you know, big plans, but when we are talking about small businesses, politics is not that good, and you cannot have, you know, unions that are so politicized and giving political issue.
But what Richard Jung was saying was perhaps it's time to rethink the relationship.
I do agree on it
between the union and the employer.
There are historical reasons which I won't explain here, and one must be conscious that French unions are very weak. We have less than 8% of the working population in the unions. This is not good.
But they're politically strong in the cultural and the system that works.
Mr. Haddad mentioned this, but maybe Mr. Sarkozy was not so nice towards the CGT.
On that point, I mean, I think it's interesting. You know, you asked a minute ago. You know, is France essentially a basket case, or is it, you know, actually quite a dynamic? I mean, let's take it from a different tack. You essentially have consensus here. Among the people that run the country, among political parties, that something needs to be done. You have disagreement over how to do it. But and I think that is one of the reasons why investors, for instance, continue to be confident in France. You know, whereas in Italy you can fear Berlusconi coming back and calling for pulling out of the euro or whatever. It's a completely different sort of ball game. But I think that then after that you can judge a government and you can judge a leader on his ability to not just put through reforms, but then to manage, if you like, these difficult processes of structural reform and, you know, you could call it loosening labor laws or improving labor relations. I think that's very much what a government can be judged on. And, you know, if you look back at Sarkozy's mandate, some things went very well, and he did make some advances on some others. But, you know, you can also say that, you know, the relations went very badly because Sarkozy was a very polarizing figure. And it will take, you know, time for us to see really whether François Hollande is up to this job and whether he can also put through, you know, what unions will take as bad news on flexibility and so on and so forth.
Richard Jung, the current government, for the first time ever, the socialists, for the first time since 1981, the socialists have a majority in the lower house of parliament on their own. They don't need to govern with the far left or with anyone from the centrists. Do you think at the end of these 5 years, we're in a crisis, the euro, its future is uncertain. Do you think at the end of this 5 years, the Socialist Party will still be the same? Do you think they'll still be socialist, or will they be more social democrat?
This is what you say is true, but in the Senate we have a very short majority. That's one thing. And we have to talk with our partners. And I want to stress the tremendous cultural revolution which the Socialist Party has done in the past years. If you think from where we come,
do you still sing the Internationale?
I'm a social.
Do you still sing the Internationale at party conferences?
Well, we do. We sing both La Marseillaise and the Internationale. But we have been a very long way. And of course, being in responsibility, as you mentioned, will of course make this even more strong. Will make this stronger. And I welcome this.
And when you sing the Internationale, is it an act of sort of nostalgia, or is it?
Yes, it is a reference to our founders, like always.
Is French politics going to be completely different at the end of 5 years? We know that there's a big discussion going on within your party over whether to tack right or to be more towards the center right.
This is already different. Let's remember what was happening, during the Mitterrand mandate. They were waiting for 2 years to get into the austerity. Right now, they were waiting like for 2 months only. So the French politics is already different because the challenges are so important, and the wall, the wall of the reality that the Socialist Party cannot ignore is so important that they must do this shift. If not, they will bring the country into the Greek situation.
Mark Dean, French politics, how different will it be in 5 years?
I don't think it will change. Right? The strength and the institutional stability of this country is absolutely amazing.
So it's gonna still be the same, and you'll still have a very strong president.
I don't agree with you. We've done a tremendous.
Now this is easier
revolution.
because Socialist Party have the Senate, they have the Assembly, they have the Élysée, they have the regions, they have the departments. So let's get in.
All right, and we'll see if Mark Dean's prediction holds true. I want to thank you, Mark. I want to thank Jonas Haddad and Richard Jung, and thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate. Stay with us. Coming up next, it's time for Business with Luke Brown.
For the election of Libya's National Assembly, France 24's observers and RFI's media workshop are going to Tripoli to hear what Libyans think. If you are active on social networks and want to take part in this interactive journalism project, just go to libyablog.org. The Observers, your eyes around the world.